Amen. Welcome to Mission News. I'm glad you could join me. I'm going to talk about religious freedom tonight in our Black History Month. Which is a month that the country has set aside that we can express our thoughts as Black African Americans. We've heard a lot in our news about religion lately. One said, "Don't let the Muslims come to the United States." Think about that. Isn't that a very sad statement? Some said the Muslims want to take over the country. They want everyone to believe as they believe. They want everyone to believe in their God. And if you don't believe in their God, some say they want to kill you. Question. Here's a question for you. Now, if this is a true picture of the religion, some would say yes, and some would say no. You ask them a question, is this a true picture of the religion? Do they really believe that way? And some will tell you yes, and some will tell you no. Regardless of what their answer would be, we as mortal beings have a right to our religious beliefs. Here's an example. We was on a family reunion trip, some part of South Carolina. And we traveled, I know, at least 25, maybe 30 miles into a wooded area. And when we finally arrived at this little village, the people there was worshiping chickens. Feathers was all over the ground. Big fat chickens just running around. And feathers again was all over the ground. The people believed that those chickens were some kind of a form of a god to them. So when we got back in the van and started out of the wooded area, some of the family members was just totally, they were just upset. They was like, those people believed in chickens as some form of a god. And I just politely said to them, those people have a right to believe in whatever they want to believe in. Now here's another example for you. I know you might say these are extreme examples, but I want to make some points to you about religious wars. That's what we're talking about tonight, religious wars. And there was a young minister, and he was invited to this church to preach. And he said he went, and he thought he did a pretty good job with his sermon. And he sat down. And when he sat down, he said the room just got extremely quiet. And then he said all of a sudden these two deacons, brothers or whoever came out with a wooden box, and they set it on the table right down in front of the altar or the pulpit, whatever you want to call it. And he said then they proceeded to open it. And when they opened it, he said snakes just came out and just ran all down the box, down the table, on the floor, up and down the aisles, all over the pews and everything. The people was catching them and they were just praising these snakes. Snake worshippers. And I say again, you have a right to believe in whatever you want to believe in as your God. It doesn't make it right because you believe in whatever you believe in. But you have a right to believe in whatever you want to believe in. And I'm hoping that I am not confusing you as a viewing audience. Because I hold that thought because the Lord did not take the will of man away from him. He just said, whatsoever. You believe in whatsoever you want to believe in. If you want to believe that that chicken or that snake is your God, you have a right to believe that. But it doesn't make it right because you believe that. But the statement it makes is that you have that religious freedom to believe in whatever you want to believe in. Now, some of you are probably saying, oh my God, she's saying a mouthful there. You mean to tell me she believed that people should believe in snakes and believe in chickens as gods? I did not say that. So I want you to hear my words. Don't twist them. Open your ears and hear what I'm saying. I am saying that a person has a right to believe in whatever they want to believe in as their supreme being, as their God. They have that right. And the reason they have that right, I'm restating it, is because the Lord did not take the will of man away from him. He can will and desire whatever. God didn't take that from him. So he can believe whatever he wants to believe. And once again, it doesn't make it right because he believed in it. So I'm throwing those thoughts out there to you, and hopefully that you'll be able to understand what I'm saying. We're going to go on with our thought, talking about religious wars. Now, we think about the Catholic faith. I'm just going to use them as an example. We said that we are a free country, but yet and still, all of our U.S. presidents has to go to the Queen or the Pope in England and bow to them. But we said we are a free country. We said we won our freedom from England. Years and years and years ago, read your history book. I didn't make this up. But then when you see that every U.S. president has to make that trip to England and bow down, in a sense, to that Pope and to the Queen of England, you wonder in your mind, what kind of religious freedom is that? Think about it. Think about what I'm saying to you. Is that religious freedom? Are we free? Well, our current president, President Obama, he has to carry the tradition on. You can call it a tradition. But I think it goes deeper than just a tradition. I think the statement is being made that this is an infringe upon our religious right. That we have to go back to the country that we came out of, so to speak, and bow to those leaders of that land, the Pope and the Queen. Now, you can think whatever you want to think, but I am sharing some thoughts with you tonight talking about religious wars. Once again, what is the difference? I don't see the difference. If the U.S. president refuses to go to the Pope and to the Queen, what do you think that the 50 people of the 50 states of the United States would say? Just think in your mind, what would they say? We just use our current president, President Obama, for example, because they love to pick on him and love to say whatever he's doing is wrong. Just say, for example, he says, well, I'm not going over to speak to the Queen. It's not my obligation. I don't have to do that. You would have a war on your hand. Talking about a religious war, you would have a religious war on your hand. Take my word for it. But to follow tradition, he and our First Lady Michelle had to follow the same tradition from Jumpstart and go over and talk to the Queen and to the Pope. Then we just think about if the Muslims said that they want the whole world to think like they think and do as they do, well, what's the difference? I don't see the difference. I'm trying to figure out in my mind, what is the big deal? The Muslims saying we want you to think the way we think, believe the way we believe, and do as we do. And we want our religion to spread all across the world. I don't understand what the difference is. Because I see the Catholic people saying the same thing. And again, at the end of the day, both of these religious groups have a right to think the way they think. It doesn't make it right, once again, but they have their religious freedom to think the way they think. But I don't understand why people get in such an uproar and say, well, the Muslims are doing this and the Muslims are doing that. They want everybody to believe the way they want to believe. And they're going to kill you if you don't do what they said do. Well, when you got just use this as an example, money is tied up as a church organization, that's a form of killing too. You don't have to do a physical killing, but if you got a person's money tied up, and somebody say, you're in left field now. No, you can follow my trend. If you're an religious organization, and you got monies, schools, and banks, and you name it, everything, money is tied up in your religious organization, that's the same as killing a person. You think about what I'm saying to you tonight, because I'm turning over some deep-sighted thoughts in our Black History Month talking about religious freedom. Our Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land, is composed mainly of Catholic people. Think about it. But yet and still you want to point fingers at the Muslims and say, well, they're trying to rule the United States. They're trying to rule the world. And the highest court in the land of the Grand Old United States of America is composed of Catholic people. And they proudly said, I am a Catholic and I went to Mass. They'll proudly come out the corner and tell you that. Once again, the question is, what's the difference? I don't see the difference between what the Muslim is saying and what the Catholics are saying. They're saying the same thing. Maybe not as blatant as the others, one of the others, but they're saying the same thing. They're making the same statement. We're going to be all over the world and spread our denominational thoughts, our religious faith. And the Muslims doing the same thing. So I don't see the difference. And we're going to be on the highest courts of the land. We're going to rule the country through our faith. So what's the difference? We're talking about religious wars in our Black History Month. And I'm hoping that you're going to stay with me and you're going to enjoy this lesson to the fullest, because I enjoyed the idea of the thoughts coming into my mind. In my mind's eye, and on the letter, the bottom line is that we have to respect each other's religious beliefs. Now, our President Obama, thank God, he is not Catholic. And he let you know, I'm not Catholic, I'm Protestant. And he has that religious freedom. He doesn't have to be Catholic. But he has that religious freedom to be whatever he chooses to be in the religious world. I'm going to say this, and we're going to take a break. Our House Speaker, Banner, at that time, at a certain time, invited the Pope over. And the Pope goes in and speaks to one of our highest courts of the land. Now you think about that. Now why is he coming to tell our highest legal people, our highest legal organization of the land, what to do and how to do? And then you're going to point fingers at the Muslim and say, this is what the Muslims want to do. It's 6.5 dozens. I don't see the difference. Going to have to take a break, and I will see you shortly after break. So don't go away. And we'll come back and share some more thoughts on religious wars.
Mission News continues in a moment on Access 4. We now return to Mission News here on Access 4.
Amen. Welcome back to Mission News. Just before break, we was talking about the Pope coming over and speaking to our highest courts of the land, and how the people was just, in a frenzy to hear him. And I still share this thought with you. If the Muslim leaders or some other church denomination leader were to do the same thing, would they have gotten the same response? You think about it. I don't see the difference in what the Catholics have done and what the Muslims are suggesting to do according to certain people. if you believe what's out there in the media, then and put these two things together, add them together, what is the difference from what one church is trying to do and what the other church is trying to do? Religious wars, that's what we're talking about tonight. Some say that the black churches are designed just for producing comedians, just for singing, and just for dancing, those type talents, and have no type of educational base to it. Now, some people actually believe that. They believe that you walk into a black church, you're going to hear a lot of drum beats, boom, da bum, da bum, da bum, da bum, and you're going to see a preacher who's going to be in the pulpit, banging on the desk, screaming across the microphone, and this cry singing to the top of the voice, and they think that's all it is to the black church. We're talking about religious wars now. And they'll walk out of there thinking, not a one of those people on the pews in the black church has any type of educational base. And some of the people in the black church have all kinds of educational degrees. But a lot will leave that church building thinking just what I shared with you. It's all about singing, it's all about dancing, and it's all about a preacher who's standing up there trying to be a comedian, and the members of the same like manner. I think that's a sad reality, but it's a reality that we have to face as African Americans when we see people talking about the black churches. We've heard so much in our country, in our land rather, about what goes on in the black churches. And I said to people, if you want to know what's going on in the black churches, then you need to just come to the black churches and get first-hand experience. These are religious wars. One religion fighting against the other. What do we do in cases like this? It's very simple. We need to just take a deep breath and just remember that everyone has a right to religious belief. Everyone has a right to believe whatever they want to believe. You cannot take that away from them, because that is the will of God, that everyone believe whatever they want to believe. That is the mind of God. So, we believe that whatsoever you desire, and remember, it doesn't make it right just because you believe in whatever you believe and whatever you so desire. It doesn't make it right. I'm going to repeat that. I want you to hear that several times in this telecast tonight. You can believe, like going back to my earlier thoughts, in worshiping chickens as gods. You can believe in worshiping snakes as gods. You can believe in worshiping statues, like the statue of Mary, statues of whoever, whatever. You can believe in whatever you want to believe. It doesn't make it right, but it does make the statement that you have a right to believe in whatever you want to believe. Religious wars. That's what we're talking about. Muslims or no Muslims. Catholic or no Catholics. It does not take away your religious freedom. I hope that the viewing audience have heard my words and understood my words up to this point, because I want to be crystal clear in what I'm saying to you. I'm saying to you from child ups, and this is another thing too. Children have religious beliefs and religious rights. And sometimes people don't want to include children with religious beliefs. But even our children, they have a right to believe in, religious freedom. So when you see a child going to church and they tell you, well, Mom, Dad, I don't really like that church. They're making a statement to you. They're letting you know there's probably some kind of spirit or something there that they see that they don't like. And I'm not just talking about the child who just doesn't want to go to church. I'm talking about the child who goes to church with you, and there's a spirit or a mindset in that church that just does not agree with that child. And when they voice that to you, as parents, you should lend a hearing ear to them, because they're telling you, I don't want this because it's infringing upon my religious beliefs. And they have a right to make that statement to their parents. So once again, I'm hoping that my words are making sense to you, because we know that as African American people, we know the attitude that's out there concerning especially the black churches. We know that. And sometimes people say the most segregated parts of our country is the churches. The churches are separated. Well, that's what they believe. But I think churches are set up on the face of the earth to make a religious statement. And that statement is, you have a right to believe in whatever you want to believe in. And once again, just because you believe in it, it doesn't make it right. So, I'm thanking God for this program tonight, because I was thinking in my mind, I want a Black History program that I've never shared before. And this thought just come to mind. Talk about religious freedom. Especially since all this things have been in the news about the Muslims. You can believe and wish for whatever you want to, and close your eyes to any kind of religious group that rules the world. You can do that. You can just pretend like, but this religious group doesn't rule the world in financial or whatever. You can believe that. But once you believe that, you got to face reality. You got to think in your mind, what does Hollywood do? Hollywood infringes upon our religious beliefs. Think about what I'm saying to you. Most of the Hollywood stories, if you just kind of go back in your mind and think, they promote and they lift up the Catholic Church. You see the nuns and whatever in the movies. Why aren't they lifting up the Presbyterian? Why aren't they lifting up the Baptist? Why aren't they lifting up the Church of God in Christ? But most of them that they do is lifting up the Catholic people. And that, when you think about it, infringes upon our religious beliefs. I know some of you probably had to go get that second cup of coffee at my words, but that's okay. You'll be just fine. Now, I know our time is running out here, but I just wanted to throw that thought in there. I just want to share some words of wisdom with you. And I'm hoping that you will be able to understand my words and think about my words as you lay your head on your pillow tonight and think, did Evangelist Lyle make any sense whatsoever? Think about it. Don't think that all black churches, don't buy into this stereotype. Don't think all black churches are designed just to promote and create singers and dancers and comedians. That's stereotyping, profiling people, churches, and that shouldn't be. Don't believe in your mind's eye that the Muslims are here to take over the world. All of them. There's bad apples in every group. Don't believe the same thing about the Catholic Church. Don't believe that. These are some don'ts. Remember this. The Bible said, let the wheat and the tares come and grow together. And when the Lord comes, believe it or not, He will do this great separation. And He knows how to separate. He can take the marrow from the bones and separate it. And you know He can separate all these little religious wars. Think hard on what I've shared with you up to this point. We have a President Barack Obama, and I had to mention his name again because I really applaud this young man. He has received more disrespect than anyone that has sat in that seat as President of the United States. And I believe in my heart that he has done more justice and more right for this country than any other president that I've seen in my lifetime. And he has received so much evil that he didn't deserve. And of course you know that it affects his family. and his wife. And he's been able to hold that family together. We're talking about religious, I'm not losing the theme. We're talking about religious wars now. That's what we're talking about. There was a time, and I'm cutting my thought here to go to this thought. There was a time when there was not one black person allowed in the Catholic Church. Did you know that? Now we got black priests, black nuns, and you name it. But read the history of the Catholic Church. There was a time when they did not allow not one black person to be in their congregation. And now you had a lot of black people, African American people running around saying, I'm Catholic. Read the history. But once again, this is religious freedom. You have a right to believe and be in any church denomination you want to. Believe whatever you want to believe. I'm going to say this as I get ready to close. I spoke with a young lady that I had worked with, and she told me she believed in this rock. And I said, at first, was she talking about some other kind of, she's making an analogy here, but she was actually talking about a rock she picked up off the ground when she was visiting some kind of foreign land. And she had brought the rock back here to the United States, hung it from her ceiling, and she worshipped that rock. We're talking about a rock that you pick up off the ground now. And so I was curious. I wanted to see the rock. So I asked her if I could come over and see the rock. She's over here. So I went over to her house. We sat on her sofa, and we talked and talked for about 30 or 40 minutes. And I left, and I never did get to see the rock. She never did let me see the rock. But she told me that every day, just like people check horoscopes, so to speak, she would check with this rock, and the rock would tell her what to do. And I said, you mean the rock talks to you? And she said, certain way the rock would move, it meant yes, and certain way the rock would move, it would mean no. And I walked out of her door, and I got a little chuckle, and I thought to myself, like I've been sharing with you for these last 25 minutes, she has the right to believe that that rock is her God, but it doesn't make it right. So we got to remember again, as I close my thoughts with you today, that you have a right to believe in whatever you want to believe in, because God left the will of man within him. And when he comes, he will separate the Baptists from the Baptists, the Catholic, the Mormons, the Presbyterian, you name it, the Church of God in Christ, Methodist, name it. He will do the separating at that point when he comes back. Amen.